Welcome back to another video. We are moving on from the entrance to kind of like a path to a new portion, which will feature Jeoloptaraus and hyaungusaurus. For Jeoloptaraus, I decided to use the rusty aviary from the Malta pack, and you can't see it here yet, but I decided to sink it into the ground so you could theoretically look into it from the path. I always like building Jeoloptaraus enclosures just because I can use one aviary without it looking too spacious or too small. Right here I kind of realized, oh wait, I can just sink this into the ground with it looking way better. So that's what I did. Now I didn't get the elevation just right, so the path to the enclosure is kind of lower than the actual plaza, but we can just fix that with a bit of terrain smoothing. What I always like to do for Jeoloptaraus is put trees in the cage, so they kind of stick out and look overgrown. Of course, using the Biosyn gallery, the viewing gallery, with the Hyperloop, I think it's such a better choice than the actual aviary viewing gallery, just because it's way less limiting. Although it does take some effort to find the place where it actually fits, along with the feeder and the trees and the rocks. I ended up putting 6 Jeoloptaraus in this one enclosure. The minimum I think you need is 4, so 6 is just fine. Of course, Jeoloptaraus is the one and only insect eater. I don't actually know what that's called in the game. Here I used, again, the multi-wall pieces, but also the monorail trick for like accessories, which I think can really spice up a park, since the monorail really accentuates the elevation, which I always say is the most important thing for a park. Now here again, you can see me struggling with the terrain smoothing because the wall-to-wall pieces, wall-to-wall pieces. Wow. Again, you can see me struggling with the elevation because the Malta wall pieces don't move with the terrain, which I think is kind of a pain. It's such a good placement thing, whatever you call it. Decoration. I'm losing it, man. But yeah, a bit of trees and rocks to fill up the dead space always helps, along with trees behind the enclosure, and just some dirt, just to spice up the texture a bit and make it not look as boring. Here I was kind of thinking what to do with the lagoon gallery and the plaza, the space between it, because it's kind of boring and empty, so I wanted to spice it up a bit. Of course, again, here I go with the Malta wall pieces and the planters, because they are just the 2 best decorations in the game. But we'll get back to the empty space in a bit. Just loads of planters. They're one of my favorite pieces, just because you can line your path with them, make it look very nice, and it helps with elevation, because the multi-wall pieces don't actually work. Is that how you say it? I don't know. They're annoying to place, but I always go into building without kind of a plan. So as you saw right there, I tried to build like an emergency shelter, but it messes with the terrain. So I decided, yeah, I won't do that. So I kind of flattened the terrain again, just to free up some space. Here also, at the other side, this is where the hyaungusaurus will be, or hyaungusaurus, however you pronounce it. It's a difficult name. I always go for a non-typical enclosure shape if I can. Just putting some water in there with a bit of sand, rocks. Rocks always help. Rocks really are some of the best pieces in the game. Now, this is actually the first time I've ever built a hyaungusaurus enclosure, and I thought they were much bigger than they actually were in game. So I ended up putting 4 in the enclosure, and then I saw, wait, these guys are much smaller than I thought. Now, I could have just gotten rid of them and put like Stegosaurus or a bigger Stegosaurid in here, Cantrosaurid, whatever you want. But I decided, you know what, this is a perfect enclosure if they actually need comfort. So, sure. Right there, I was testing to see if you could actually see the hyaungusaurus enclosure if you were walking down the path, which, no, you couldn't. So I decided to raise it a bit, make it more flat along that side, and just work around it a bit. If people ask me for tips, I always just say, fill up the space. because open spaces really are just the killer of parks. Unless that is what you're going for and you know how to make it work, it never looks good. So fill up the space with plazas, decorations, trees, rocks, more buildings, more enclosures, just anything to keep it from being an open space, emptiness, because it just kills your parks. Again, here with the filling up of empty space, I just did a little rock garden, because that's just the safest option. It's almost always going to look good, and it's easy. And here I decided to put little palm trees in this open space, which I think the palm trees are way too limited. They should add like bigger ones or ones with coconuts. I don't even know if they have coconuts. Here working on another decoration with the Tyrannosaurus statue, with a bit of rocks, trees around it. This really is one of my favorite pieces I've ever built, even if it's so simple. Of course, with the water, it looks really good, because decorative water is one of the most underrated ways to spice up your park. Adding more rocks always helps with the look, of course. And eventually adding more trees and the Jurassic wall pieces, which I think was a mistake, but it ended up looking at least decent. So yeah, I decided to keep it. But yeah, let me know what you think. I also would like some suggestions, either on my TikTok or on YouTube, of what dinosaurs to add in the next section, because I want it to be like swampy or plains. Anyways, I will hope to see you all in the next video.